Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. And today we're going to talk about the lowest mintage quarters of the United States State Quarter Series. And we're going to go from the 10th lowest to the lowest, or the 41st in total mintage to the 50th in total mintage. And the first one is right here, the 41st in total mintage, and that is the Wisconsin State Quarter. Wisconsin, state number 30 in the State Quarter Series. It says Wisconsin 1848. We see the cow and the milk and the corn and the motto forward. And down here it says 2004. And the Wisconsin State Quarter that is in the bottom 10 in mintage is the Philadelphia Quarter. They made 226 million of them. So they still made a lot. So when we talk about it being a really low mintage, it still made quite a few. But if you're looking for the ones they made the least of, that's what our list is all about. The next least, or the next more least, geez, I'm just going to knock them all right down and you'll see them all before I even get to them. Well, here we go. The next one in the list, number 42 on how many they made, is the Michigan Quarter, again from 2004. And you'll see there's a little bit of a 2004 pattern here. The Michigan State Quarter was the 26th quarter in the State Quarter Series. Came out on January 26, actually, 2004. Michigan became a state in 1837 called the Great Lakes State. It is the 2004, the E Pluribus Unum. Remember, these are all clad, copper nickel clad copper coins we're looking at. And the Michigan Quarter is a little bit of an outlier because it's the Denver Mint Quarter. The Denver Mint Quarter, there's only a couple from the Denver Mint. Of all this whole list, almost all of them were Philly quarters. So they must have been doing something else in Philadelphia because they weren't minting as many quarters. In the Denver Mint, in 2004, they made 226 million of these. Just a few fewer than Wisconsin. Next on the list is Illinois, and of course the land of Lincoln, and there's Abe Lincoln. There's the farms, there's the city, probably Chicago, 21st state century here. It says 2003. And the reason it says 21st century is 21st state century is because Illinois was the 21st state. So this was number 21 in the State Quarter Series. The Illinois State Quarter is a Philadelphia quarter, and you can see the P here, and they made about 226 million of this one also. So you'll notice that many of these low-lying numbers were very similar. 226 million of the Philadelphia quarter for the Illinois quarter. Next up was Missouri. In Missouri in 2003, again it was a Philadelphia quarter, and this time though it was 225 million. So they made a million less than the other three. And this is just a beautiful quarter. These are from uncirculated mint sets, and you can see sometimes you can just get these gems out of the uncirculated mint sets. Next up is Alabama. So Alabama, the sixth least, it says Alabama 1819. It's Helen Keller here. And of course there's some braille on there, which is great. She's sitting in a chair, spirit of courage, it says here. I have not been going over the engravers, and I probably should, but you can look in some of our other videos for that. But this, of course, is the Norman E. Nemeth. And we got the kind of the pine here, and the longleaf pine and the magnolia blossoms here. And again, the Alabama one is a Philadelphia coin, and they made 225 million of that. Next comes Oklahoma, which has the distinction of having two of the top, bottom 10 in total mintages. And that might have been the year 2008. It might have been the demand. And remember, some of these don't have much to do with how big the states are, as you'll see. It kind of comes and goes. We have Illinois, then we have Maine, we have Oklahoma, then we have Alabama. So it's not the size of the state. It's just almost like, what did they decide to mint that year? The Oklahoma is a 2008, so that's the next to the last year that they made them. And so we know that Oklahoma is going to be a really high number in terms of the number. And it is. It's the 46th. Because remember, they made them not only for the states, but they also made them for the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, and the District of Columbia. But we don't count those because we're only going to count the lowest states because they made a lot less of those territory and DC quarters. So the 2008, we see this beautiful scissor-tailed flycatcher. You can kind of see why they called it that. That's a state bird. These Indian blanket flowers, which are the state wildflower. And then, of course, down here, we have the initials, and that's PH for Phoebe Hempel. Wait a second, is that Phoebe Hempel? Let's look. Yeah, it is. It's funny, it looks almost like a W, but it is definitely an H. So that's Phoebe Hempel. Sorry about that, Phoebe. This is a great coin, by the way. And this is the Philadelphia version of the Oklahoma state quarter, and they made 222 million. So you see we're going down a little bit. Next up is my favorite, of course, and that is Maine. The Maine state quarter from 2003. You see there's a lighthouse on the Maine state quarter. You see that there is a sailing ship, something to do with Maine being on the coast, I suppose. And you also see that there is these birds, seabirds flying above. And way down in here, you see a D and a W, and that's for Donna Weaver, who was the engraver of this coin. And thanks for this one, Donna, because this is one of my favorites. And, of course, Maine was... It is in New England, but it wasn't one of the original states. It came in the Missouri Compromise in 1820. Missouri got in and Maine got in. So this is, Maine is not as early as some of the others. This is the Philadelphia quarter. In Philadelphia, they made 217 million of them. Next up is Ohio. In Ohio, they made 217 Ds. And that's of course, the John Glenn one. And the birthplace of aviation, you see the 1803. That's another Donna Weaver. It's a 2002. Next up, Iowa. And I have no reason for Iowa to be, but it just must have been happenstance. So this is the Grant Wood, 1846. It came into the Union. It's a 2004, like a number of the other ones that we've had. In Iowa in 2004, they made 214 million. So we're talking about a very, very low number. And this is a John Mercanti. There's a JM down here. And finally, the lowest of all the state quarters in terms of mintage is the Oklahoma state quarter from 2008. They only made 195 million of them. The only one they made less than 200 million of, and that was at the Denver Mint in 2008. So that's all we have from DC Coin World.